Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. It's the beginning of the week, Monday, the 29th of September, 2025, 724 days since the attacks by Hamas on the south of Israel. In Gaza, the place is caught between a culture of construction and the barbarism of destruction. I'm going to read a note to you from someone I know in Gaza who is talking about leaving their home today. Now, they're one of the privileged in Gaza. This message doesn't talk about the bombs. It doesn't talk about starvation. It just talks about a small aspect of normal life. Listen to this. He says, last week we were forced to leave the place we'd called home for 6 months. It was not truly ours. It belonged to relatives who, with their generosity, opened their doors to us after our own house was partially destroyed. In those 6 months, this place became more than walls, more than furniture. It was a shelter, a comfort, a space where we felt warmth of family and where the echoes of our family's memories surround us. From the very first day, our mission was clear: to protect and preserve this home so that one day we could hand it back in the best of condition. There were corners never touched because they carried too much of someone else's story. Even when we disagreed about the choices of the design and things like that, the endless challenge of keeping the furniture spotless, it was white, we accepted them as a part of the character of the home and the gift of having any place at all, something sacred to its owners. But living in this place was still not without struggle. Cooking on a makeshift wooden stove indoors was literally a daily nightmare. We fought with smoke and soot. Desperate to keep the place clean and safe, we invented ways to shield the furniture from the smell, and we were always ready to pay any price just to find gas to be able to cook at all. When the time came to leave, our last day there was exhausting. We scrubbed the corners, arranged every piece of furniture back to the orders that the owner loved, and even sacrificed and left our own bed covers to protect the shining white sofas and the chairs. We swept until the floors glowed, shut the windows tight, refused to take the smallest item that was not ours. But finally, before closing the door, we stood for a moment, prayed, and wished with all of our hearts that this departure would be short and that we would return very soon. This was before Friday afternoon. The messages started pouring in like heavy rain: evacuation orders, warnings, frantic calls from friends and neighbors asking if the coordinates mentioned were really our temporary address. The answer was yes. The jets were coming. That carefully cleaned, beautifully ordered home was on the list. The one that we had guarded so closely was now a target. I kept asking myself, could those pilots sitting in their cockpits see what we had left behind? Could they see the covered sofas, the shining white chairs, the spotless floor? Would they notice the small pot of basil still growing on the balcony? Could they sense that nothing had been stolen, nothing ruined, only love and care poured into the corner? No, they would not. They were not looking for life or beauty or memory. They were only looking for something to erase. The justifications they offer for destroying homes like ours, along with thousands of others, including schools and hospitals and places of worship, are hollow. To call them military sites is absurd. To accuse us of hiding weapons or cameras in our living room is a cruel joke. And yet, I've not seen even one voice in Israel sincerely denounce these acts. Instead, there are videos of buildings collapsing, sharing pride and celebration. And so I'm left to one conclusion: people never commit an evil so completely and joyfully unless they believe that it is justified by an ideology. In my mind, I hold on to these two pictures: the last moment that we closed the door on that spotless, shining home, not ours, but ours for a temporary time; the later image of the same building lying in ruins. The second image tears at my heart, but we refuse to let it destroy us. We will keep the first picture alive inside of us, the picture of care and dignity and construction over destruction, that picture of who we are that no amount of bombs can take from us. That's a report directly from Gaza of someone whose home he's been living in completely destroyed, and he and his family displaced yet again. And remember, he's one of the very privileged few who has water and money and resources to buy things at exorbitant prices. News over the last 24 hours: the Israeli military killed at least 18 people across Gaza today, according to Al-Shifa and Al-Hilo Hospital. The Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders charity, said on Friday it was forced to suspend its activities in Gaza City because of being encircled by Israeli forces. The death toll I just literally gave a report yesterday and talked about how in the past week or two, the death toll went from 64,000 to 65,000. It has now surpassed 66,000 deaths. God have mercy. In Israel, Netanyahu will give a response to the newest U.S. proposal for a ceasefire when he meets with President Trump. That meeting was supposed to happen today. I did not get a readout. Other Israeli officials suggest Netanyahu is expected to present reservations to the plan during the meeting and that he will request changes. Netanyahu said yesterday the deal is not yet finalized. Related to Syria, Israel reintroduced its demand for a humanitarian corridor in Syria's South province of Sweda. This is a part of the Israel-Syria security talks. A Syrian source said the demand had derailed plans to announce a deal that was going to previously be announced this week. In previous talks in Paris, Syria had rejected the same request as a breach of its sovereignty. The UN Security Council over the weekend reinstated an arms embargo and other sanctions on Iran because of the nuclear program, activating the snapback mechanism. Iran's intelligence service attempted to recruit hundreds of Israeli citizens via phone calls on Saturday. So said the Israeli police in a statement. When they picked up, a person spoke to them and offered to recruit them to an Iranian organization. The vast majority of officials and diplomats gathered at the UN General Assembly Hall on Friday appeared to walk out as Netanyahu took stage for his address, saying that Israel would finish the job in Gaza. Gaza residents told CNN they had not received messages, even though there was a report from Israeli intelligence services that they were live streaming Netanyahu's speech to the phones of people across the Gaza Strip. Plans for a post-war Gaza created by former Prime Minister Tony Blair reveal high-power positions filled by international diplomats and businessmen, leaving more strenuous groundwork for Palestinians. The top position in the Gaza International Transitional Authority is set up for Tony Blair to take a hold of that position. And I wanted to let you know that Cori Bush, related to the United States, former member of Congress, hopes to win back her seat in St. Louis. She's poised to launch a campaign. Sources close say that there was a bitter re-election primary that she lost in previously to prosecuting attorney Wesley Bell, but in recent months has been hiring staff and preparing for the launch. Negotiations over the latest iteration of Trump's plan to end the war in Gaza are at their final stages. Trump told Axios that. Trump said that Netanyahu was on board with the plan. Hamas said the group had not received any ceasefire proposal from mediators and stressed that negotiations had been suspended since Israel's failed attempt to kill its leaders in Doha a few weeks ago. Finally, today, Churches for Middle East Peace did a webinar about Christians in Syria. We won't be posting that online for security reasons. We did it online, but we won't have it on YouTube. Please be in prayer for the Christians in Syria, for their safety and protection from extremist groups like Hayat Tahrir al-Sham that officially became a part of the government, for security from state and other militias, for comfort for the suffering, those who've been injured, families grieving the loss of the attack, for example, in June of this year, where there was a church that was bombed in Damascus. Pray for courage in the face of danger, hope amidst suffering. Pray for wisdom for church leaders, asking God to grant them wisdom as they guide their congregations through these difficult times. That's a daily update as the week begins. More than 66,000 people in Gaza killed. God have mercy. Christ have mercy. Amen.